Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how we actually come up with new ideas when we're talking with someone? Does it feel like your brain is working overtime, or like you are tapping into something bigger than just your own thoughts? That is the big question today. Scientists are exploring something called extended cognition. Think about it. When you are brainstorming with friends, you often come up with solutions or ideas that none of you would have thought of on your own. How does that happen? This new research dives into how our conversations actually help us build new knowledge together, almost like we're forming a shared superbrain. The researchers are looking at conversations as a key ingredient in this extended cognition idea. They believe that conversations aren't just about sharing information, but about actively building and generating new ideas by combining what everyone contributes. They wanted to figure out the actual rules or the computational blueprint that makes this happen. So they asked, how do people in a conversation generate new information compared to what has already been said? They analyzed a massive amount of conversations, over 5,000 of them, and in 9 different languages, they used some pretty cool computer science tools and language modeling to measure how ideas evolve from one person's turn to the next. Imagine each sentence you say is like a Lego brick. When you talk, you are not just putting down a new brick. You are often picking up pieces from the Lego structures your conversation partners just built and incorporating them into your own. Sometimes you take just a few bits. Other times you might rebuild a whole section. This study wanted to quantify that process. They used something called Convergence. Information, or CI, which basically measures how much effort it takes to go back from the meaning of one sentence to the meaning of an earlier sentence. A high CI means the ideas have diverged a lot, while a low CI means the ideas have stuck around and carried over. They looked at this CI value over time in conversations. Think of time not as minutes and seconds, but as the number of turns or back and forth exchanges in the conversation. They wanted to see how CI changes as more turns pass after a particular statement. To do this, they used a tool called Allen variance. Now, don't let the fancy name scare you. It is basically a way to measure how much the changes in information are fluctuating over time. They were particularly interested in whether these fluctuations follow the power law distribution. What's a power law? Imagine a graph. If something follows a power law, when you zoom in on a tiny part of it, it looks similar to the whole thing. It means there are predictable patterns in how things spread or change. Even at very small scales, in this context, it suggests that how ideas are reused and transformed in conversations has a deep, structured pattern. It is not random. This also connects to the idea that systems following power laws can potentially perform universal computation, meaning they have the flexibility to solve a wide range of problems. The researchers also wanted to see if speakers' contributions were influencing each other. They looked at something called complexity matching. This is a fancy way of asking, do speakers tend to mirror the complexity of their partner's language use, or are they synchronizing in a different way? And then to raise this concept of Lyapunov exponent characteristic. This sounds super technical, but it's really about how the difference in information between two speakers changes over time. Does that difference shrink, stay the same, or grow? They found that, on average, speakers tend to maintain a critically stable difference in information generation. They aren't becoming exactly the same, nor are they drifting completely apart. They're staying in a kind of balanced dynamic. So what did they actually find? It is pretty fascinating. First, across all the data, they found that conversations consistently show these power law patterns in how information is generated. This isn't just random chatter, it is a structured process. This holds true whether speakers are building on their own ideas or on their partners. They found that the power law exponent for speakers building on their own prior turns was steeper than for building on their partner's turns. This means speakers are especially good at leveraging their own past contributions, but they are also very effective at using their partner's contributions too. Crucially, they compared their findings to randomly shuffled conversations. When they mixed up the order of turns or even shuffled them between different conversations, the power law patterns disappeared. This tells us that the structure they found is specific to real sequential conversations and not just a statistical fluke. It means speakers are deeply influenced by the ongoing flow of the conversation. And remember that critically stable difference. They found that speakers tend to maintain a consistent level of difference in how they generate information from each other. They're not completely merging their ideas, but they're also not going their separate ways in terms of how they process and build on information. This critical stability suggests a well-tuned dance between individuals. Scroll general discussion, while there are small quantitative differences in the results for the English monolingual and cross-linguistic studies. We find evidence of power law scaling in information generated by both the same speaker relative to their own prior utterances and their conversation partners relative to speakers' prior utterances. Generic, what does all of this mean for us? The study suggests there are at least 3 core rules governing how we generate new ideas together in conversation. First, information generation follows a predictable power law pattern, meaning it is structured and not random. This applies to building on your own ideas and your partner's ideas. Second, the components of the conversation system, the speakers, are definitely interconnected. The way they influence each other's information generation is real and observable, and not just random. And third, they maintain this critically stable difference in information over time. They stay in a dynamic equilibrium, constantly adjusting to each other. Scroll conclusion, there are thus 3 rules that govern how speakers generate information together with their partners during their conversation. Information that speakers generate relative to their own prior turns follows a steeper power law distribution over time than their partners, but demonstrates that turn over turn the way they leverage prior semantic content. T.S. utterances see prior conversation states that they themselves contributed is capable of universal computational principles. Conclusion, this research provides a fascinating glimpse into the mechanics of collaboration and shared understanding. It tells us that conversation isn't just a social lubricant, it is a sophisticated cognitive engine. The fact that these patterns hold across different languages suggests this is a fundamental human ability. It is like a universal rule for how minds connect and create. The study suggests that our brains, when working together in conversation, are capable of complex computation. They can adapt and generate novel ideas in a flexible way. The researchers propose that conversation is less like a rigid game and more like friends building with Legos, sharing pieces and creating something new together. These rules are the hidden blueprints of that creative process. Scroll acknowledgements, the authors would like to sincerely express our gratitude to Dr. Rick Dale at the University of California, Los Angeles for his guidance, support, and the wealth of insight and ideas that he shared with us and continues to share with all of his colleagues and students. Acknowledgements now. What are the limitations here? Well, the study looked at the average behavior. Individual differences might matter a lot. For example, does a more stable difference in information generation lead to a stronger feeling of shared understanding? Or does fluctuation in a partner's information generation impact closeness? These are great questions for future research. The beauty of this study is how it bridges different fields, connecting complex systems science, information theory, and language modeling to understand something as fundamental as human conversation. It helps unify ideas like interpersonal synergy and alignment by showing the underlying information generation processes that drive them, and thinking about language itself. This research offers a new perspective. Instead of just focusing on grammar, maybe languages evolved to help us achieve these specific parameters for distributed cognition. It is a provocative idea that language might be shaped by our need to connect and create together. So next time you are in a conversation, remember that you are not just talking, you are participating in a complex, powerful cognitive process. You are part of a system that can generate ideas beyond any single mind. It's like a collective intelligence in action. What do you think about these findings? Do they resonate with your own experiences in conversations? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the science of conversation and extended cognition, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating insights into the human mind. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.